I've lived in a few places around the world. I've lived in Taiwan, Shanghai, Seoul, and London. But those were all exchange programs, and the longest I was there was for 6 months. And I always knew when I'd be heading back home to Australia. But over a year ago now, I moved to New York for good, for now. Having had those other international experiences previously definitely prepared me to some extent, but there are definitely a lot of things I want to share with you guys about moving overseas, especially if you are currently considering it or even in the process of moving. Hopefully I can share some insight into how my experience has been so that you can somewhat mentally prepare yourself if you end up doing it. Firstly, you'll never be fully prepared. You can read all the articles you want, you can watch as many YouTube videos as you want, but you'll never be able to get to a point where you feel fully prepared and that this transition will just come simply and easily. My brain couldn't even register the dramatic shift until like 3 months after I moved. I remember being back home, I was slowly packing my stuff, getting ready for my departure date, and that reality that I wasn't gonna see my friends, my family, my dog for a really, really long time, it just didn't dawn on me until that final day. And then when you get to the destination, everything will feel new and different, and there will be culture shock. For me, for the first few months, it felt like a holiday. Everything was new and exciting. I was doing new things, exploring new places, and things just feel like you're in a parallel universe. Everything is similar to home, but it's just slightly different. But after a while, that feeling wears off and you adapt to your new norms. At the end of the day, you still have to go to work, pay your bills, go grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning, all that stuff. I felt like I swung from one end of the spectrum to the other. 1 month, everything was so exciting and inspiring. It just compelled me to go out and explore and to chase new experiences. And then the next month, I found myself really just sticking to my routine. And I think the right place to be is some balance of the two. You need to embrace that this is now your life and get used to the day-to-day, but also to appreciate the present and the privileged position that you're in, and to just enjoy what makes where you move to so special. I think it's just really important to remember why you moved in the first place, and that was to chase new experiences. Another thing you need to be prepared for is for things to go wrong, because they always just do. And that's more like an eventuality of life. But specifically when you've moved overseas, those problems just feel larger, and you might tend to attribute those problems to being in a foreign place. Whether it's issues with the bureaucracy, the services, or just anything in general. For me, the first place I stayed, it was a sublease, and within the first week, the aircon or the AC just stopped working, and I had to get someone in to repair it. And the first thing that popped in my head was that, wow, American ACs must just suck. And then it took forever for me to open a bank account. And so, I was just thinking, wow, American banks just suck. I had to really remind myself that these issues happen anywhere, and they can happen to anyone. It wasn't specifically happening to me because I was in a new place. I think I felt more stressed out and irritated by these things because I was in a foreign environment, a place where things were very new to me and I didn't know how things worked. And I didn't have any friends or support to turn to sort of help me solve those issues. So just mentally prepare yourself to definitely run into obstacles, because that's just gonna happen, but just remember not to blow them out of proportion. You'll also feel lonely in many ways. The fact that you just don't know anyone when you first move, the feeling of not belonging, not talking to people for long periods of time. I mean, the week before I started work and I'd moved already, I literally felt like I didn't really speak to anyone or have a proper conversation with anyone outside of people that I would just encounter, at the grocery store or at restaurants getting takeout. And then there's that feeling that you're missing out on things back home. For my friends, my family back home, when I left, their life kept moving on, now without me. While I'm here on my adventure, I'm no longer a part of their adventure. And then seeing people spend time together and doing things that that you would also be involved in, but you can't because you're halfway across the world, it just sucks. Another big one is feeling like you don't have support. Back home, I had friends and family that I could rely on if I got into trouble or in any sort of emergency. But when I moved here, I didn't know anyone. For the longest time, I was freaking out about who to put down as my emergency contact. And I'm the type of person that doesn't like to ask for help. I always feel like I'm burdening someone. But when I was on my own and I really did need help, I just had to push that nagging feeling that I was annoying someone, I had to push it away, and I just had to ask for help. And with all these aspects of loneliness, there's really only two solutions. You either just put yourself out there more, you obviously face potential rejection, but that's just something that you have to deal with, or you just learn to be more comfortable being alone. And I think both of these things happen naturally because you're put in this new situation where you're forced to make do with what you have around you. You're not able just to fall back on things so easily, so you are pushed out of your comfort zones. And again, I think this comes back down to balance as well. You do need to develop that independence within yourself, but you also need to be open-minded and open to new possibilities and new friendships. But moving won't automatically just change your life. There were so many things that I said that I would do once I moved. I said I was gonna put myself out there more. I said I was gonna take classes and things I was interested in and learn new things and make friends with people that I normally wouldn't. But the novelty of moving and that spark of energy that it gives you at the beginning, it ran out surprisingly quickly. And once I got more familiar with my surroundings, I sort of just settled back into my baseline. Moving won't instantly change who you are. Sure, it puts you in a new environment, an uncomfortable position, and you will learn from that and you will grow from that. But you still need to make a conscious effort to chase what you want and your goals. Moving overseas is a huge decision. You leave your family, you leave your friends, your whole life, and you embark on an entirely new adventure. And it's an adventure where you'll learn more about yourself than you would have if you stayed back at home. And you'll really start to discover what matters to you. Whether that's your career, your relationships with the people around you, your relationships with a significant other, or your family. I always wanted to move to New York, and it was something that I would tell people around me all the time. It was almost like I wanted them to hold me accountable to actually doing it one day in case I chickened out. And the reason why I wanted to move wasn't one thing in particular. I was just chasing a feeling. The path to actually move took a lot longer than I thought it would, and when it finally did, things didn't pan out exactly as I imagined it. And living here isn't exactly as I imagined it, but that's part of the beauty of chasing something different. It's never what you expect. It's full of ups and downs you never would have thought of, and you never would have experienced if you just stayed home. Anyways, I hope that made sense, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.